Well, it's no secret that Skoda is the finest car maker in the world to make sedans. We have got the Laura, we have got the Octavia, we have got the Superb, and today we have the Skoda Slavia. Within few months from its launch, the Slavia has already outsold the Honda City, that is a segment leader, for ages. Today we have the Slavia to tell you everything about this car, how does it perform on our Indian roads, whether the increased ground clearance have impacted the driving dynamics of the car, and so on. So stay tuned till the end and also subscribe to the channel if you feel like. Now, before I jump onto the design, let me tell you that I have done a fully in-depth walk-around review of the Slavia. The link of the video will be up top somewhere, and you can watch that video before moving on to this one just to have an idea about my opinions about the Slavia's design. Now, if I cut it short, the Slavia is typical Skoda in its design. As you can see, the Slavia takes inspiration from the bigger Octavia. The cues are visible on the front and on the rear as well. Talking about the front, the Slavia gets a rising bonnet with a power bulge in the middle, which is reminiscent of the Rapid if I tell you. The signature Skoda grille is now flanked by LED headlights that are slimmer and also house LED DRLs. Lower part of the bumper gets you the round fog lights and some chrome garnishing. Now if I move to the side, there is a common character line that is shared between the MQB A0i and platform. So that platform gets the Tiguan, the Virtus and the Kushaq and the Slavia as well. And as the Slavia gets 179 mm of ground clearance, it may feel a lot off higher to the ground, and that's why the 16-inch alloy wheels, which are fairly big in my opinion, feel under tight for this car because the wheel arches are very wide and very massive. That's something I will leave up to you, and if you want good stance from a car, you can of course shift to the 17 inches. But these tires, if I tell you, are really good for comfort, and the inside, the road insulation is also great. Moving to the back, the Slavia gets L-shaped LED tail lights, which are of course very slim. And the Slavia interestingly has a 3-box design. It's not a notchback style sedan that the Octavia is. Upon asked by the team, Skoda replied that the Slavia gets the 3-box design just to save on some cost, because incorporating a typical sportback design or a notchback design would have increases the cost to a certain extent that it wouldn't be feasible to the masses. So now as we are done with the design, let's get on the inside to understand the overall comfort and the features of the Slavia. The moment you step inside the Skoda Slavia, it will be easy to notice that the whole dashboard has been carried over from the Skoda Fabia, that is a premium hatchback on sale globally. But the overall cabin ambience and the overall quality and the fit and finish levels of the Slavia are simply amazing. And it sets a benchmark in the segment, save for the leather upholstery and the soft touch materials we get to see in the Honda City. Talking about the overall dashboard layout, we get a 3-part unit. We get a bronze finish that runs across the width of the cabin, and it also houses the ambient lighting for the car. The center touchscreen is a 10.1 inches in size, and it gets both wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. However, due to the ongoing semiconductor shortage and all the chaos, this one has now been replaced with the 8-inch Panasonic unit, which does get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay but not wirelessly. So you will have to carry a wire with yourself. But that's where the problem lies. Because the Slavia doesn't get any USB Type A socket, you only get 2 Type-C sockets at the front and 2 Type-C sockets at the rear. So you will always have to carry a Type-C to Type-A adapter if you have an Android phone or an old-age phone. Here we also get a wireless charging pad which can wirelessly charge your phone while being connected to the Android Auto wirelessly, of course. And we get the controls for the ventilated seats for both the driver and both the passenger. The center armrest is sliding and it also opens up for a better storage up under there. And we also get a cubby space on the driver's side just to keep your wallet and your cards or maybe something. We get 2.5 cup holders on the center console, and one of it gets a grip so you can open up the bottle cap without taking the bottle out of the holder. The glove box is cooled and it also opens up for a great space. We also get a neat space to hold your idols. The roofliner quality that was an issue with the Kushaq and the Tiguan has now been solved with a very premium feeling headliner. And we get LED map lights for both the front and the rear passengers, and both can be operated from here only. The overall ambience is also lifted because of this, I think, largest single pane sunroof in its segment. It is electrically operable, of course, and we also get a shade that is very thick, so it won't be impeding with the temperatures of the car. Now we move on to the vision of the driver that holds the 8-inch instrument cluster. It is fairly sleek, but I would have liked to see more customization options. It only gets 3 distinct modes, and some may have speed, some may do not have the RPM gauge, but nonetheless it's a very slick and a very crisp unit. One issue I have with this particular unit is that it doesn't show you the trip A and trip B meters. It only had a since start information, which only gives you the average speed and the average kilometers and the time you have traveled with the car. The norm with the all new Skodas is the 2-spoke steering wheel, which is really premium. It's a very soft padded leather with stitching, and these knurled rotary dials are just impeccable in quality and feel really tactile in use. However, I would like to mention one caveat that I found in the cabin, and that is this particular temperature control. This is a touch operated unit, but that's not the main issue. Of course, it pulls out some caution that why there is no proper rotary knob to adjust the climate control. But the problem is that this car is currently at 2800 kilometers on the odo, and this has already started to loosen up a bit. So the overall quality isn't at that level which we expect from a Skoda. But nonetheless, the overall ambience of the cabin on the front seats is really amazing. And if you have an annoying cow in your house who always wants to have a commanding driving position, the passenger seat also gets a height adjustable function, so you can have him in comfort as well. Now in the rear seat of the Slavia, and the space is really impressive. So I get good amount of headroom, I get good amount of under the support as well. And the transmission tunnel, right say, the central tunnel is not present in the Slavia. Sitting 3 people abreast won't be a problem in this particular situation. However, as the width of the cabin isn't that much, and the seats are well contoured for only 2 passengers, sitting a center passenger would be a task abreast. You also get a center armrest, and it gets twin cup holders as well, which are sort of rubberized, so your drinks won't be slipping away. It's a commendable job from Skoda that we get 3 adjustable ladders in the back, along with a 3-point seat belt for the third passenger as well. And we also get Isofix child seat anchorages, so that is also a great addition. Like on the front, we get 1 liter bottle holders along with a good amount of space to keep your neck and necks. And you also get a phone holder on both the front seats to keep your phone. So now let's get to the driving part of the Slavia to see how the 1 liter TSI performs on our daily drive. If you have not guessed it by now, we are driving the Slavia 1.0 liter TSI with a 6-speed manual gearbox. This particular unit produces 115 PS of power and 178 Nm of torque. The torque output is delivered right up from 1750 RPM, but the actual delivery turns out to be at just a shade above 2000 RPM. That's where the torque delivery just comes into its action. The unfitted drivability of this particular unit is rather good. The throws are really short, but the gear shifts are a little notchy, so you'll have to deal with it. But nonetheless, the overall driving performance on the torque delivery is really smoothened up, so you don't feel yourself shifting the gears and going through the gears too much just to have an overtake. The torque is enough to give you a good amount of surge to take a couple of overtakes easily. The in-gear accelerations are also decent enough. However, when you are in the taller gears, or in a 5th or 6th gear, the ratios are far away stretched out. So if you are in a taller gear, the overtaking could be a difficulty. So that's where you will have to take a couple of downshifts just to keep the engine up and running. Talking about the overall refinement, this being a 3-cylinder unit has been marginally improved over the same unit that we saw in the Polo. The one which we reviewed earlier, that was a 6-speed torque converter automatic. And despite that having more torque delivery, the raw power that the Polo is famous for, this one feels more refined and more linear in that manner. And as we are now going through underpass, the features of the Slavia come into the picture, as we have the beautiful ambient lighting and the automatic headlamps as well. The overall visibility in the city driving is phenomenal. If you are at the tallest seating position, you can also see the bonnet bulges. Other than that, the ORVMs are fairly large, and in this particular favor, I would give this credit to the city, which gets ORVMs mounted on the doors rather than the A-pillars, so that gives better visibility. The in-city maneuverability, as I told you earlier, is fairly good. The turn-ins are really easy, the steering is light, and it also weighs up well on the highway. It's a pity that Skoda have now skimped on the subwoofer and the amplifier on this new Slavia range because of the semiconductor shortage. However, this being the pre-production car, or I'd say the review car, this comes with subwoofer and amplifier as well. And the sound experience is really great. The vocals are crisp and the bass is also strong. Now we are in the humid temperatures of Gurgaon, and it's already 45 degrees out there, and still the AC performance is decent. Many people reported that the AC doesn't perform well. If you are in extreme heat conditions, it won't, let me tell you. But if you are in a daily driving condition and the car isn't out there parked in the sun, it will serve you decently enough. And then you also have the ventilated seat function with 2 speeds of setting, of course, and that keeps your bum and back really cool. Coming into a good driving position in the Slavia isn't a task because you not only get a tilt and telescopic function, but you also get a high degree of adjustment in terms of height adjustment and the 4.5 function for the seats. Now, if we talk about the suspension and the ride quality of the Slavia, that's where the Slavia sets apart itself from their lineup, the Skoda lineup, because it is very supple, it is very comfortable, and it doesn't. The same thing doesn't translate into the driving dynamics of the car, because if a car has a very supple ride quality, you would expect that the dynamics will go for a toss. But in the case of the Slavia, the traits are intact because the steering is sharp, the front end is really sharp, and the steering is also gives a lot of confidence. In the corners, the Slavia performs really well. It holds its line and it doesn't feel underwhelming in that regard, despite giving a lot of comfort on broken patches of the road. The suspension are of good quality, and the rebound and the compression, all of it is sorted. Unlike other cars which have softly spun suspension, those third a lot. But I have tested this car in large bumps as well. The suspension doesn't squeak or doesn't translate a third inside the cabin. So that also ups the premium quotient of this car. On the braking front, the Slavia only gets ventilated disc at the front, whereas the rear duties are done by drum brakes. And the braking performance is adequate in my opinion. It's not really astonishing like the earlier cars in the range, but it does stop dead center, and it also gives a really good bite to the pedal. And the pedal position, however, could have been better because it is way too upright. Like I mentioned earlier, the 1.0L TSI in the Slavia is not as eager as in the Polo, but as the initial gears are quite short, it does lose traction very easily. Hence, Skoda have also given a traction control that works really well along with the e-diff that sends power to the wheel that it requires the most to increase the grip and the performance as well. But if you are in a mood of a little fun, you have the ESP button right on the infotainment system. With just one click, you can turn it off, and that's when the car becomes an absolute hooligan because it loses traction really early and it gets a massive wheel spin. But not for long because the e-diff then comes into the picture and sends the power to the other wheel by braking the wheel that is losing traction. So that's where the e-diff also works really fine. And if you may not know, the e-diff is standard across all the variants of the Slavia, no matter if it's the 1.0L TSI or the 1.5. So you get the performance and the cornering capabilities in all the variants. So you can upsize the tires, you can fit some lowering springs, and you have a proper RS car in your disposal. So what are my thoughts on the Skoda Slavia then? Well, the Slavia is Skoda's final attempt to strike a balance between agility, comfort and performance. In a nutshell, the Slavia is a fantastic package for a family of 4, and if you are in an urban city, you can decide with the automatic, but if you are a good old enthusiast, they have a wide range of manual options as well. All of it proves that the Skoda Slavia is a perfect car for our market and the sedan you have been wanting to buy. So I think we have got all the aspects of it. If you have any further queries and questions regarding the car, the comment section is open for you. You can ask anything about the Slavia. And also our Instagram page is full of you guys. I respond to each and every one of you. So if you want to have any questions and any buying advice, our page is always open for you guys. Just drop a follow and ask your questions whatever you feel like, and we'll try to answer the best. In the end, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget the bell icon. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, drive safe.